Hello, hello, hello.
Hey, welcome to this week's episode of Bobby's Cryptid Corner. My name's Bobby. We have Kari here, we have Bree, and we have Tony. We are sans jamais this week.
Ooh,
Jamais.
jamais.
I'm filling in for Jamie.
I
I'm
love
not even
that.
supposed to be here today.
I got a question for you guys. What other cryptid show do you know that would ever even consider covering something as obscure and wonderful as the
Werehyena.
Bree? That was your cue, and you took it. I love it.
Man, this thing is
I can't
weird.
think of any. It does seem a little weird. What I heard of it, like in the green room there, I don't know. It sounds like a weird one.
It is. And yes,
we have more cryptids than politicians have top secret documents in their houses.
Okay. They all have some.
They all have them. Let's be honest. But we have
my
more
gosh.
cryptids.
That
Am I
is
the only one
true.
drinking tonight?
No,
No, I've got
everybody
coffee.
is.
No, I have coffee like a good human.
In unison, no.
This is not wine. This is just yellow water.
I have Sprite.
Sprat.
Yeah, so what we've been doing recently is whenever we say a word wrong, we drink, and that seems to work better for us than picking a word that we're going to continuously use, especially since we still continuously say the wrong thing. But that's because we're like dealing with cultures all over the world and whatnot. So of course, when you see this lovely Werehyena, take a sip, whether you're drinking water, maybe a green smoothie. I'm going to do that one of these days. I was like, okay, one of those really nasty cleansing green smoothies I'm going to have on Bobby's Crypto Corner, because what other way to get it down than if you have to? Like if you have to drink it.
That would just ruin the entire
I don't know. It might be fun.
Like
Who
a
knows?
matcha.
Fun for who?
No, not matcha. Matcha's like good, man. I'm
I
talking
do
like
my
nasty.
super green smoothie every day. You just got to slam it real fast. You got to chug it and not think about it. Or you can put lots of blueberries in there, and then that kind of
sweet.
hides it.
Yeah. I made
Blueberries are
one
pretty good.
time with way too much cayenne. I think it was supposed to have like a splat, like just a little of cayenne pepper. I never
supposed to be
followed
good for you.
directions. I did
Yeah.
like a tablespoon of cayenne pepper, and it was the worst thing I've ever. It was painful.
I'll
but-
tell you, a really good green tea is coca tea.
Coca, like cacao.
You can't
From,
get it in the United States, but
yeah,
if you
that's
go
from
down
Europe.
to South America,
Oh, real cool.
Little South American adventures.
yeah, like what Coca-Cola used to be made out of.
Hell yeah.
I would
did
love
that
to
in
do
the
that for sure.
90s.
Listen, early YouTube days, there was this person. God, I don't even remember his name, but he talked about this game where you would fill anything that you want into a cup and then you give it to the other person to drink. And it's like this game of whoever throws up first loses. So like you make a drink, they make a drink, and it's literally anything that you want to put in this drink. And when I saw that on his YouTube channel, I'm like, I love this. I don't know why. And then I got all my friends to do it, and it's just awful because, I mean, you might be drinking like applesauce with, like hot sauce, maybe some mustard, maybe some fish left over in the fridge. I mean, it's disgusting.
Mountain Dew, gross.
But I always won.
Ugh.
You got like sardines and applesauce and potatoes and,
I mean, you could be a straight up dick and just like mash a ghost pepper into a cup with some vinegar and like 2 tomatoes in there, a little bit of salt. It's going to be a bad.
Yeah,
Speaking from experience there.
That's how I make hot sauce.
I'm all set on the fun, gross drinking drinks. Let's drink gross things thing.
We're like, we're adults now. We don't have to do that. We're adults now.
I'm happy with my caffeinated beverage.
Really quick aside. You know how people give you like joke shots at the bar, and it's like
I'll take it
without warning. Like my buddy handed me this drink. I just thought it was a shot of whatever, and it was what's called a prairie fire, which is believed tequila and Tabasco sauce. And he was my roommate at the time, and I got very upset with him, and I went home and ate a bowl of his Reese's Puffs cereal that night.
Yummy.
Yes.
And we can fill in the blanks as to what happened there after that. But I don't want to go into too much detail.
I kind of want the detail, but like maybe
fine.
no one else does. I don't know.
I woke up and there was Reese's Puffs vomit on our television.
Oh, that's good.
You asked for the details, and then I had to go to play practice, and my director like sent me home because she was like, "You look like you're gonna die." I'm like, "Thank you."
Barf is best case scenario. I was imagining something so much worse.
Yeah,
I don't even
so
know.
much worse. You probably don't.
So Enzo's here, and he says Tony's making an extra Bloody Mary. Can we talk about how ridiculous Bloody Marys are getting now? Like, I mean, they're putting like
they have like chicken strips and Arby's
chicken
sandwiches
strips,
in them.
crabs, sandwiches, filet mignon. Like,
I saw one with the whole fucking pizza on the top.
what are we doing here, people?
Are you okay, America?
They're basically like they're just like TikTok challenges at this point.
Oh yeah,
they're like, what can we put on this Bloody Mary to make it go viral?
Yeah, they're like, here's a 4-course meal on a Bloody Mary.
But that's the point. So if you're at brunch, super hungover or whatever, you order a Bloody Mary and it has all your foods all right there.
Yeah.
Bree, if I'm super hungover, I'm not going to eat a crab, a filet mignon, a burger, onion rings, a pizza, fucking pickles.
I have one thing to say to that. Get good.
Get good?
Get cholesterol?
Get good.
Get good? Is that GOODE?
No, it's G.
No, it's GITGUD. Get good.
Is that some sort of British slang?
No, it
is if you want it.
Dark Souls.
Oh, I never.
Let's do shout out to Paranormal Chop Shops here, Spookies here, per usual. Enzo, thank Christ. Renee Cruz, Lynn LeBlanc, Grandmaster UV, and Kathy Splash, and Strange Recon Radio.
Don't know who
Love you, Jeff.
That's it.
Lookum
Hold on.
Lookum, you know, you can just go into participants.
Joe's my favorite.
Joe 5D. No, it's more fun to scroll through the comments.
Is my favorite.
Yes.
And if you didn't comment, I don't shout you out because I can't see you.
And we don't like you.
Of course. Okay, let's.
Not wrong here.
Get good is some sort of boiled meat.
It's boiled meat and baked beans.
That sounds like British food.
Because the Brits have to throw the beans into everything.
Like, I rarely have a meal that doesn't have some sort of bean.
We don't do that.
It's like weird. I've only become aware of it when I get teased for eating beans, and I'm like, wait, I do eat a lot of beans.
They're cheap and high in calories. It's everything you need.
We started looking at different restaurants for in the area of contact in the desert where we will all be, hopefully all of us. So far, at least 3 of us that are on the screen will be there for sure.
Don't look at me when you say
I'm
that.
hoping that you will be. Anyways, we we're like looking at the different restaurants. And Kari's like, where's an English breakfast? I'm like, there is no English breakfast here.
I will hunt one down in the desert, Brie. I will find it.
You do not find. I've lived in the States all my life.
I will buy an oven.
There's no English breakfast. We don't just like serve eggs and beans and like that's just not.
Kari, let me ask you a question. If an American were to come to the United Kingdom, is there somewhere I can find huevos rancheros?
Probably. There's quite a few Mexican places around. Some good burrito places.
Don't know. When you told me about your burrito you got last week, I was like, that is not Mexican. Like that. Just you call it a burrito.
Could have been Mexican.
Did it have blood sausage in it?
It was like weird.
No, I deliberately didn't want salad or relish or shit. I just wanted.
If there's mushrooms in a burrito, it's not authentic
rice,
Mexican.
Beef and gravy. That's all I need.
I like a good Scotch egg from time to time.
I've never had one.
And if anyone thinks that they're not, say that to my face.
I want to try it.
Egg with like a big giant Newcastle. Oh.
Yes, beans, tomato, and eggs. It's so weird. It is so weird. Okay. Well, we've had a
All
lot
right,
of
enough
food
intro
talk.
banter.
Yeah,
I'm
let's
Yes.
get into the Werehyena.
Oh, who's that?
Oh God. You guys, this is exactly what you would imagine. It's a werewolf and it's a hyena. But listen, this is not just like any other random cryptid you find. This is really hardcore, like prevalent in a particular part of the world still to this day.
Now, was this on True Blood?
Oh, no, it was
It was on
not.
Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Fuck
Was it?
yeah.
Sort of.
Hell yeah.
Sort
All right.
of.
Sounds like that's a little cliffhanger.
The episode is called The Pack. It is basically the whole entire class of students turn into hyenas. Buffy the Vampire is the fucking best show in the entire world to this day.
What are you talking about?
Get
Anyway, I'm such a Buffy fan. So yes,
I'm such a Buffy slut.
such a Buffy slut, not a Slayer slut. Buffy
That's what
slut
those
Slayer.
fans are called, right?
Buffy
Buffy the Vampire Slut.
Slayer slut. Yes.
Mm.
Okay, so the Werehyena here, the threat is maximum. You're gonna die. Appearance, very, very typical with a werewolf mixed with a hyena. So we have both. A monster, but a hybrid monster. This animal in particular is a shapeshifter, just kind of like a skinwalker. I think the correct term is a therianthropy.
Sort of. Yes.
Therian.
So that's
thropy?
fucked up.
Yeah, that's
Said word.
just gonna drink some coffee here.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes. Let's have a sip of scotch.
But the smell is of
Alright.
course rotting flesh. Like a lot of these cryptids, they always smell like shit. We assume that. Bestial strength. What?
Can we talk about the smell for a second? 'Cause that is a common motif with cryptids. However, it's also a common motif with wild animals in general.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because
That's
if you
true.
go to the zoo, it doesn't smell great. And I'm not like,
no.
is there a cryptid around here? I'm like, no, that's just
But I
fucking
feel
the
like
elephant.
zoos just smell like
scientifically
shit.
recognized monkeys.
Can I ask, what's the difference between a wolf and a hyena?
We'll get into that
Okay.
when I break down the genus of hyenas, because a lot of people don't know how interesting hyenas are.
One is a dog.
Now, is
one is
there
spotted.
Looking forward to learning.
Is there a hyena and also a laughing hyena, or are they one and the same?
Ooh, they're one and the same, I think.
There's 4 different living species
Oh
of
my God.
hyenas, and we will get into that.
All right,
Yeah.
I'll just shut the fuck up.
So let's just look at
Yeah,
our little
we'll
breakdown, though. Look at this man. He is. I mean, I would pick this over a puma if I were able to design a shoe. Put that thing on my shoe.
I want some hyena cowboy boots.
Yeah. So anyway, bestial strength, because this is a hyena and a wolf. We know that werewolves are already high in strength. They've got the muscles. Hyenas are very vicious. This monster also has unquenchable appetite for blood and flesh. Again, similar to a skinwalker. The one thing that really puts this cryptid apart from a normal werewolf is that it can technically take 3 different forms if it wants to transform. It can turn into a human, so maybe it's a hyena in its regular day life, and then it can turn into a human. Or it can be a combination of human and beast, or it stays a human and then turns into a hyena. So in a normal werewolf setting, it's the human then transforms into the beast. So to think of it as like vice versa is kind of interesting. Because it's almost like whatever is convenient at the time. You could be a human your whole life and then you turn into this thing, or, it's totally up to you. If
It's
you
a
are
shapeshifter.
such a lovely beast.
Ooh.
But it's like extra shapely for a shapeshifter, if you know what I mean.
It's very good at shape shifting.
It is. It's good at shape. Of course, cannibal, vampiric, and it's red glowing eyes. We know the claws, all those things. But what's particular about this is that it's really narrowed down to Africa, the Horn of Africa. And that in particular is Ethiopia, Somalia, Sudan, and pretty much all of those surrounding territories. So it is Africa, and this is the Horn in particular, and that's Ethiopia. But it has spread out through Africa and all of these different areas. Mm-hmm. And like I said, still very common today, this belief. Not something we're used to.
When it says cannibal, do you mean it's humans eating humans?
So because it can take those 3 different forms.
Oh, okay.
A human, a beast, or whatever. I mean, it could literally be just a human eating a human.
Also, the name hyena and Werehyena comes from Greek. So the word has a basis in Greek. So there is a Greek mythology that goes along with this, which I think we get into.
Absolutely.
Tony's here to just tease everything we're about to get into.
Everybody loves a tease. That's fine.
You've weaponized my curiosity, Tony.
Oh, have I weaponized your curiosity?
Weaponized it.
Oh, shit.
Wow. Would you like to see a metal spear over Iraq?
Would I ever?
So these werehyenas are known to lurk around graveyards, especially around midnight, and to be grave robbers. And of course, along with that, raiding villages, going through crops, just all around devil, like a Tasmanian devil.
They're almost like those weird dog things from that movie Willow.
Yes.
What movie is that?
Just roll with me, please.
It's way older than you are.
I forget how young you are.
I was a kid, but I remember.
Not that young.
Yes, those scary ass dog beasts.
Yes, dog. They can be I keep wanting to say werewolf. The werehyenas can either be by themselves. They can just be a lone wolf, so to say, or they can also travel in a pack. But they are known to call people's names out at night. So just like a skinwalker and like so many of these other things, they will call your name to lure you away from lure.
So it's almost like, this whole time that we've been doing this show, we come across these common threads of common stuff with all these things, and it seems as though every culture has some sort of skinwalker type creature.
Some type of shapeshifter, right?
Right.
Yes.
And it always, it more or less, if we want to take a very like secular lens to it, it's probably a cautionary tale kind of thing. And cautionary tales, like there's something to be said about that, right? Like a human can turn into it, if you're not an upstanding citizen, or you hear cries like a baby in the distance and things like that. It's just weird how it all kind of overlaps across and transcends cultural contexts.
Yeah.
Well, it does, but this is one of the things about the Werehyena is that it doesn't really have those warnings associated with it.
Interesting. Okay.
Right.
So like it has none of those things like we see with like the Wendigo or like the werewolf or vampire or anything like that. It's completely different, which is
there's a little bit. Yeah,
a little bit, but it's
a little bit, but it's
it's
you're right.
More of a spiritual cautionary thing versus like, hey kids, don't go in the woods because you're going to get eaten kind of thing. We'll get into that later. We should just call this episode "We'll get into that later."
We'll get into that later.
I had a question.
Seems to be a second thought, whereas these other ones, like that's the warning is the first initial, like this is why this exists. Seems like the warning when it comes to this cryptid is that's a second thought. It's like, well, if you take all that into consideration, you should probably get your ass home.
Totally. Totally.
Could this be
Love
like an extrapolation within the culture of like lycanthropy? So these people think that they're hyenas, but they're not. But within the culture, they kind of fulfill like an archetypal form within the tribal mythology.
Exactly. So
we're gonna get into all that.
But anyway, just again, like Bobby's going over, you know, how all of these other cryptids are beings, these creature type beings, call you out so that you're by yourself, kind of luring you away from the crowd or away from, if you're in your own group of people, your home, basically where you're safe. They call your name out. You think it's actually someone that you recognize. You go out, but it's really just to ravish your flesh. Like they're just going after you and it's the lore of the Werehyena also states that they sometimes will bury their victims alive. So maybe they lure you out, bite you in the neck. Ah, you can't do anything. They throw you somewhere. They bury you up. And then you're still alive, but then they'll just come back and feed on you when they please. That's just
sexy.
Fucking sucks.
How do you survive being bitten in the neck?
You don't. You die.
Yeah.
It just depends.
Classic.
I don't know how long you could live for, but yeah. So in Somalia, this is gonna just pull up the drink button now. Querismaris is the name.
Right.
Really?
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not Somalis.
Querismaris means the one who rubs himself with a stick. And this is a man who can basically transform himself into a hyena man by rubbing himself with this magical stick at nightfall. And you just repeat this process. And you could return to your human state before dawn. So if you knew you were like, all right, I got some hyena shit to do tonight, so then you just that little stick.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what would be the incentive for doing that?
Work in the morning.
I mean, what if we're thinking of like
no, I mean to turn into a hyena in the first place.
Interpreting hyena to mean animal. What if it meant like guy's just like a stud? At nighttime, he turns into a hyena and he's ravenous. Right?
Just rub a stick on yourself and you're
right. I'll rub myself with a stick.
Yeah, you know, we're gonna get into that later. You're not that I'm totally serious. You're not that far off from my research and my interpretations of my specific part of this presentation and conversation. Yes, Kari, you're on the right track, as my elementary school teacher would say.
We'll find out about this later.
You're on the right track.
We will talk about it later.
A little later.
Okay,
we're coming up in about 20 to 25 minutes.
No.
Hello, Luke, I'm spooking.
Okay, so it's a weird thing. I think this is super weird for us, but however, you should take into consideration that maybe in different tribal areas, I mean, a magical stick is pretty common. Maybe
it's
you
some
rub
Harry
that
Potter
shit all the time, right? Yeah. Anyway, this hyena man is known to have two mouths, one to eat and one to talk.
That's what she
pretty
said.
Awesome. You can do that at the same exact time.
So not only are you turning into a hyena, you're actually turning into a dual-mouthed hyena.
Because you get the best of both worlds. You get to eat and have your conversation at the same time.
I envy that. I'd love to talk and cram food into my mouth simultaneously.
Without the fear of choking.
I do that anyway.
Without the fear of choking, though, not necessarily. Yeah, so it is known that people can become a hyena man if they have eaten human flesh before. So as long as you eat some type of human flesh, you can find a magician, a wizard in the area and be like, look, I've got everything it takes. I got a stick. It's pretty magical. I ate some people. I'm ready to do this, man. And then they could make you into a hyena man.
Hyena man.
So this hyena man, again, lurks around the graveyards. But what's interesting is that they continue to eat human flesh while they are in their hyena man form, and they're also supposedly can be pretty attractive. So they can be a very attractive male, luring women in, and
as a hyena man, or
Are
as
we
a
going to
man.
find out about that later too?
as a man.
He's got a magic stick, and he's a very primal.
So, like, I'll make you
man.
gorgeous. It reminds me of Beauty and the Beast because he was a beast. But then remember when the magic spell broke, he ended up being like her magical prince. And it was like, oh my God, he's so beautiful. I had no idea. Yeah.
Which begs the question, were they about to fornicate whether he turned into a human or not? The beast, that is. From Beauty and the Beast.
Shit.
Sorry for ruining Beauty and the Beast.
No, for real.
I can't unsee it now.
Yeah, well, you got to ask yourself these questions.
Right.
What's really interesting about this hyena man is that it's said that the only way to truly like kill a hyena man is if you have some type of bait, which is of course like an attractive woman. So I read all these really strange posts about how you like lay like a naked attractive woman out, and he like smells the pheromones, and he like walks over, and then it seems to be in the height of his interest for this other woman that he is basically his guard is the lowest, so that's the best time to kill him.
I think I saw
To all the ladies listening,
Cab
please
Confessions
take
one
heed of
time.
that.
What?
What?
Wait, hold on. Both say it over. Kari, what did you say?
I said to all the ladies listening, don't heed that advice.
Oh, okay. Bobby, what were you saying?
It's gone now. You're gonna have to rewind the tape.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
And then
did we say thank you, Angel Wings?
Thank you, Angel Wings. I'm not looking at the screen.
Did something happen?
Have to remind me.
Membership stuff.
Oh, thank you, Angel.
Yes, actually, yeah.
Thank Angel Wings.
Yeah, fuck Tony.
No, thank you, Tony. I think last time when we were doing this, it doesn't show on here, and so
it doesn't.
was
I just
kind
tried,
enough to let me know. And yes, thank you very much, Angel Wings.
So,
we do appreciate that.
Jeff, why are you assuming that a big hung Cuban guy doesn't identify as a woman? Checkmate.
What?
One thing I will say though is like we say wereman, we say not wereman, we say hyena man, but all of the text of all of like all the details of this person, he doesn't have to be a man, it could be a woman. So we could change the scenario around where it's actually a very attractive woman that lures a man into the deep of the forest, and it takes a very attractive hunk of a male to lay down.
I think my ex-wife was a werehyena, perhaps.
Well, we would know if a werehyena was a woman if it just drained the guy's bank account and just ran off with the guy down the road.
Okay,
laughing.
We're on.
That's the laughing. Yeah, that's why they're like, yep.
Yeah.
That's
I sound like that sometimes. That's fine. In the Western Sudanic folklore, there is a hybrid human who can transform into a cannibalistic monster at night. So same type of thing, but this monster in particular goes for lovers. So if you're trying to like run off in the village with your sweetie, chances are that monster is going for you. That to me sounds more like a warning, maybe to keep your daughters from like being impregnated or something too early. It's like, don't go running off in the night with that boy because he's coming
after
around.
His own Jason Voorhees.
Ooh. But this monster, again, same thing, but he's portrayed as powerful, magical, a healer, a blacksmith in human form. And the way to tell of this person to be possibly a shapeshifter into this creature is if he's like overly hairy. and has a nasally voice. Apparently that's how they would point them out. We have to remember that these, like what we're looking into in particular, is actually incredibly ancient. This isn't a new cryptid by any means. And
old.
Back in the day, some of the things that we thought were omens or strange were just very common. It was just a little bit strange for our small area. So like a very hairy human could be quite normal, but in that village you would automatically be presumed to be this type of hybrid creature, which is
right. You haven't had contact with the outside world as much. You can't get on the internet and just Google like hairy men.
Right. And they exist everywhere.
You can just check it. You can't Google image a bunch of burly hairy men.
Oh my God. Even now we didn't have that.
The tribal idea of lycanthropy.
Yeah.
Like, whether it could be like a shaman that took too many mushrooms and then thinks they're a werewolf, right? It could be, or it could just be a hairy dude, just a hairy dude that comes in and they're like, oh, werewolf.
And there's a name for that. So same thing in Arab folklore.
We'll get to it later, Bobby. Don't worry.
Okay.
What?
I was like, what is the name?
Oh, it's the same name. No, it's the same name. It's just that in that Western Sudanic area, that's how they look out for them. And that's the only real area that mentions anything about if he's an overly hairy person, he's going after lovers. So it's the same thing, because this is also in the same region where they believe in the Werehyena. And in the Arab folklore, same thing. The only difference here is that sometimes it is the hyena's eyes that can mesmerize a person who then becomes the victim. It can give off like a disease, like making you die or something, or it's just going to lure you off and kill you. And sometimes not just their eyes, but also their pheromones. So maybe they release a type of pheromone that makes you go after them and wander off of, with them in the village.
It's interesting you say that. It reminds me of what I used to hear when I was in Canada.
That you smelled?
No, it wasn't a smell. It was a type of lure. It was a sound lure. Like there'd be coyotes out in the bush and they'd be screaming in the middle of the night, and it sounds like a woman screaming or a child screaming in the woods. So that people run out there like, oh my god, and then they get attacked by a pack of coyotes. Like I got warned against, like my neighbors were like, if you hear screaming in the middle of the night, don't go out there. And I'm like, okay.
So that's an excellent tale, because that's an excellent life lesson, whatever instance that you had, because we hear that over and over and over again, and that's exactly what Bobby was talking about. But to think that there are actual animals that are still doing that, they're not cryptids, but that is a way for them to lure us. That's fucked up.
It is pretty messed up.
Especially a woman. The woman and the baby, I think, gets to everybody.
Yeah, but that's also the same noise a fox makes.
But it's like your innate nature.
Let's see if the fox is out of this.
When you hear maybe a woman, you think like, oh, it's a helpless woman. We are a baby. You're like, oh my God, it's just an innocent infant. You have that instinct in you to run out and to save it.
I had that instinct. Like I'm sat on my front deck and I hear it at like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like,
what if it was a werehyena?
You hear a baby?
No, I heard like what sounded like a woman screaming, and it's and if I hadn't have been told about it beforehand, I would have been like, "Oh my god, someone's being murdered out in the woods." But then, being told, I immediately was like, "Oh, that's what that is," and then it repeated again and again and again, like over about an hour, and I was like, "Okay."
Is it the fox?
There's no words. There's no like "help me" or anything. It's just
like someone's dying. As much as I would say don't follow that, I also watch a lot of true crime, and sometimes people are like, I screamed and screamed and no one came. So
They're
I'm
like, that was just a fox.
I think I would be one of those people, you know, if I die, I die. I would want to go help someone. You know?
Well, that's very altruistic.
Shout out to Jamie.
For what?
Nah, fuck them kids.
Aye. Okay, so this is when it's gonna get interesting. In Ethiopia in particular, it was presumed that all blacksmiths were witches or wizards, and they had the power to turn themselves into a hyena, and they were called the Bouda. Bouda or Buda. It depends on how you want. It looks like Buddha, but it's the Bouda. And
This
this
sounds
belief,
like it's about to get very Borat.
it's about to get very anti-Semitic.
Didn't we
it
have
is-
a slide?
There it
Slides
is.
for this?
We will. So
In the future.
Bouda, it's not just in Ethiopia, but it's also in Morocco and Sudan and Tanzania. So they presumed
Tanzania,
blacksmith.
drink.
Yeah, you fucked up saying Tanzania.
What did I say?
Tanzania.
You're thinking of Tasmania.
Yeah.
Tasmania.
Which is the other hemisphere.
Like it's a Tans.
I'm all out of coffee.
I'm all out of
fucks.
sparkling water.
Y'all can't read, that's why.
Okay, listen, this is really interesting. This is probably like the biggest thing that I think still sticks today, and it's really unfortunate. I actually put in the notes that I didn't want to cover this, and Jamie was like, no, skim over it. And then I was like, oh, I already put all the shit in here. So
Well, we're certainly not
It's too
skimming
late.
it now.
It's too late. It's too late now. There's no going back.
Welcome to Spicy Cryptid History.
Yes. And it's the truth. That's why. It's unfortunate and it's the truth, and it's nice to bring light to it. So yes, the Bouda is believed in Ethiopia, Morocco, Sudan, and Tanzania. So it was presumed that basically the uneducated, it'd be like the working class of the time. It is the artisan workers, the basket weavers, the blacksmith. If you're working with iron, like iron worker, metal worker, you were presumed to be labeled as a Bouda. And a Bouda.
I mean, were all these like kind of blue collar artisan jobs, were they typically Jewish folks, or
Yeah,
is this the name for all of the, like,
this
whether
is the name
regardless
for
of your...
all of them? It was the name for all of them. But particularly in that time in Ethiopia, they were mainly all Ethiopian Jews. So the Bouda, because it's a very derogatory term, the Bouda is basically equates to like being demonic. They hold the power of the evil eye.
We need to move on.
No, we should discuss
I'm just kidding.
this. Okay. So they have the power of the evil eye, and with that power, they're able to change into a hyena, which enables them to conceal their identity, so they could like change and do their shit and come back or whatever. And again, it was often Jewish, so that's why it's very derogatory, because it was basically associated with those who were exiled, those of a different social group. And they were always accused of having some type of magical power.
Wait.
They don't?
So then all these rumors came that the Bouda were Christian grave robbers. So they would dig up Christian, bodies or whatever from their graves. Very unfortunate.
Quite.
Someone keeps booting me, I swear. So this is basically like what they said you would be. You would be like this normal working class citizen, and then you could literally just transform into a hyena, a Werehyena whenever you want, and become this like savage beast.
I like the Buddha.
Buddha. Oh, thank you, Kari, for adding that. But this is just a great example, I think, of when you don't understand someone's culture, like especially back in the day. I think it's different now, but back in that time, to see any type of outside culture or person, they threw all kinds of things onto them. So they were the Buddha. This is awful. I found this on Reddit. I did not make this. I found it on Reddit, like, and it says
the worst meme.
When you make the mistake of being a Jewish blacksmith and you
very niche meme.
It really
you
is.
really gotta know.
I mean,
you found this on Reddit?
Found this on Reddit.
Surprised you didn't find it on 4chan.
You're the one who brings the hate crime, man. Like,
I'm exposing.
I'm very uncomfortable.
I think you just have high standards, Bree.
Yeah.
Yes, but it's about it's aside from the anti-Semitism, like you were saying, Bree. It's about putting kind of again cautionary characteristics about people you don't trust or groups of people you don't trust, right? So it's almost like a different angle of the cautionary tale. Not saying it's right, not saying you should do it, not saying I condone it. I'm just saying that seems to be kind of the genesis of this kind of stuff.
And it also just kind of comes from like, you know, back in the day, they didn't know. And anything that they did not know back in the day, it was always religious, because all I say we because it's our ancestors, all that we had was religion. And that's really the only thing kind of keeping going day by day.
Strange Recon, where did you even come from? It's really funny commentary. I need you. You're saying so many things. That,
no, Kanye would call and be like, "It's the Jews." No,
please
the
don't
Jews
stop.
didn't do anything wrong whatsoever.
Kanye would be like, "But who's they though?"
So,
all right.
Anyways, so they were dubbed as the Buddha, and this is really the roots, the true roots of what a Werehyena is, where it comes from. In Ethiopia, they would wear an amulet or a talisman called the kitab, and it would basically invoke God's name. So inside of these, inside of this necklace, and this could only be done by a Ethiopian or Orthodox priest, he would make these necklaces, and these are all leather, but if you unwrap it, it's basically like a scroll saying some type of prayer. And it was to protect against the Buddha's evil eye. And wildly enough, there are still Ethiopian Orthodox priests giving exorcisms to those who they believe possess the Buddha today.
Am I under threat because I have an evil eye?
No. So like the evil eye can protect against, but if you have the evil eye, if you are the evil eye, that's why they have the eye. It's warding off. But if you possess the evil eye, that means you have these types of powers.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nobody watching knows what you're talking about.
What do you mean?
Because they can't see the eye that Kari's talking about.
Well,
I showed it and then put the camera back.
Maybe you should show it again.
I'll show it again.
But I mean, this is also like a version of the evil eye. It's like the same
evil
thing.
Eye. Actually, I have two of them up there. But
are you pointing at the number of people
like
that
the
are
Illuminati
watching?
Eye?
There you go. Now we can see it. There you go.
Oh, there it is. Yeah.
We can see how anti-Semitic that is and how that carried off. It's
You don't have to be a dick.
Unfortunate that in humanities, track record, really, is any outsider of those that we don't understand, we immediately deem them as evil. And I'm tired of
Evil.
images. I really am.
Evil.
So, in as early as 1376, the Persians made a medical dissertation, and they wrote about something called the kaftar. The kaftar is someone who is believed to be a shapeshifter, a half man, half hyena, who loves to slaughter children. And this kaftar is apparently was even seen in their state capital, New Delhi.
So
why do they all eat kids?
Because why not?
They're tasty.
So this is a picture of the actual manuscript.
Like venison kind of thing?
Yeah, same thing.
Boop. Kind of wild that would be in a medical dissertation, if you ask me.
Well, I mean, they used to.
It seems like it's real then, if that's on there. And then there was also in 1406. This is really confusing to me. The Al-Dumari and his Hawaiian Al-Kabara. It's in an Arab. Christ. It's in an Arab area. I don't know how to speak Arab, okay? But anyway, they wrote about the hyenas and how they were vampiric creatures, and they would attack people at the night and drain the blood from their necks. And then to swing it back to Tony, the Greeks up until the late 19th century believed that if you did not burn the body, like completely dissolve the body of a werewolf, that then it would basically transform itself into a vampiric hyena. It would show up on the valley of either where there was a war or if it was a grave site, and they would drink the blood of dying soldiers. Yes. So if there was a war going on, they would drink the blood of the dying soldiers. If not, they would hop onto the graveyard, dig up their bodies, and then eat them again.
Kind of douchey.
Super douchey. And then in the Bornu Empire, I think former now, in the Lake Chad region, it was believed that 2 or more of the whole village there in Africa, were populated by none other than werehyenas. So they truly believed that there was an entire village or 2 where there were only werehyenas living there. And in the Canary language, the bultinig drink means translates to "I changed myself into a hyena."
Now, do we come across is there any other African were animals, or is it strictly a hyena thing? There's so many animals there in Africa that perhaps I'm just wondering if there's various more.
The hyena is the evil. The only other thing is so in the Berber mythology, this is a picture of an actual petroglyph. They believed in a shapeshifter that was actually hyena crossed with a gorilla.
Oh fuck, that's creepy.
That just looks like a chow.
This reminds me. You remember that game Spore? Where you can make loads of animals.
Yeah, or a small Pomeranian.
No, not the body
with the
type.
curly tail and just dickish.
No, I mean this is really exaggerated.
Yeah,
it's very exaggerated. And then so this was a well-known thing. They straight up believed in this. This is some of the medieval bestiary, so Middle Ages, they would document all these beasts. This
thing's hung like a hyena.
I was just gonna say it's got a dick.
This is the werehyena here, being really sexy Taking this fool down. This is a better angle here, getting him from the grave.
Is it a better angle? I think the other one was more hung.
Well, okay. That is not circumcised. We don't like that. And just really going for it here. Just dead body. We're going for it. Listen, people, I didn't paint this.
Why are they always eating ass?
Okay, this is not my work. This is
They're
true
millennials.
History. True history. And before we move on, I just want everyone to know that you can become a Werehyena today. There are instructions for a spell.
Let's definitely try that.
For a spell,
Put it on the Patreon.
We'll get to that later, don't worry.
Oh yeah, actually, let's get to that later.
Patreons?
Let's get to that later. I think that Tony has like what's happening in the current day. So that's basically all of our older days. It's very wild. It's very well documented and hard to fathom.
What Bree's trying to say, it's my turn to talk.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm going to
current tradition. So this is something. So when I started looking into this, I started looking for like some of the precursors that came with like werewolves, like ergot, like some kind of fungal, psychedelic.
Someone's been watching The Last of Us, it sounds like.
No, this was part of our werewolf episode months ago.
Okay. All right. I'll shut the fuck up.
It was our show.
I hate it when my parents fight.
I was looking for like some type of pharmaceutical reason, like something they were eating or something that could explain why they're having these visions or whatever, but there's nothing. The current traditions, it's used as a cautionary tale, is to not go out at night and make sure your livestock is locked up, or else the Werehyena will come and eat up your livestock.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Like all cryptids.
Right. I mean, this hits like every type of predatory cryptid that there is, right? So each day before the sun sets, local farmers can be seen racing home to lock their cattle indoors. Market stalls hurriedly shut up shop, and anxious mothers call their children home. But this is also Africa. Like, this is out in a place where there are super dangerous animals, like, all over the place. So there's not just actual hyenas. There's wild dogs, jackals, lions. The big fat hippos kill more people in Africa every single year than lions do.
Yeah, what about the elephant? I think the elephant is supposed to be the second most dangerous animal in the entire world. What?
Yeah, the African elephant is extremely dangerous, but they tend to leave people alone if you don't get into their space, whereas there are rhinoceroses and hippos will just attack you if you're dumb enough to be near the water or near whatever.
And we think of them as so safe too. We're
like the moose of Africa.
Hippo.
Yeah.
No, yeah, like every few years there's a story coming out of Africa of some like safari where they rode the rapids of the river and got swallowed by a hippopotamus.
Right. I mean, hippos are extremely dangerous. It's just a dangerous place to be. It's like Australia but bigger with less venomous shit.
Ew.
Dude,
but like
Africa is
I don't know. It's
huge.
Large.
It is huge.
Yes, but everything in Australia is venomous and wants to kill you, whereas everything in Africa just wants to be left alone.
Left alone, but that's where the poachers are.
Yeah.
And those safaris you're talking about, like the really sad thing is when they venture off into an area they shouldn't, because they shouldn't be around those animals. This isn't the goddamn zoo. This is real life.
Well, it's better that than capture them and put them in a zoo, am I right?
If it bites someone's arm off when they shouldn't be there to begin with, who are they going to kill? The animal.
Well, that's their own fucking problem if they get their arm bit off.
It should be their own problem, because what are you doing? But,
Well, stupid is as stupid does.
Agree.
So the hyena men, there is the hyena men, and it's Harar, which is a area in Ethiopia, and these are men who raise hyenas, and they feed them. They're very close to them, and it's really weird to see. If you've ever seen those pictures of people in Africa with like hyenas on chains with like muzzles on them, that's who these people are.
I disagree with that too. I just think it's wrong.
Why? How is that any different than domesticating a wolf 12,000 years ago?
That's fucked up too. But like, what are you gonna do? Go back in time? No.
It's not. That's why you have
could
a poodle.
choose. You could choose. Who likes poodles to begin with?
Nobody.
We're not going to start there. But yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's no different. So this is how we came up with the domesticated animals that we have, right? So it's kind of weird that you would try to domesticate a hyena, but whatever. I mean, everybody's got their own thing.
They're so cute.
Yeah.
Are they?
Yeah.
I mean, domesticate like possums and
domesticated trash pandas and
I've been researching.
Tony, you're domesticated, and that's an achievement.
That's a very big achievement at this point. Right. But they did this hoping to exchange dinner for protection of the town for chasing out things like the jinn.
Right.
Which we know are evil spirits.
Oh,
jinn, genies.
Throw that hyena a little piece of meat.
And I think that has a lot to do with how weird hyenas are, and we'll get into that. But
when we're at
towards the end of the show. So the hyena men of Nigeria, this is another one. This I don't suggest anybody look up on their own. Because I looked this up on my own and I was quite disturbed.
Yeah, I'm disturbed as well.
Damn, that is metal as fuck.
Oh yeah. The men are from rural farmlands of northern Nigeria. They catch hyena pups, baboons, and snakes in the wild and use ancient magic to bring wild animals under their control. So what they're just doing is they're feeding babies, and the babies think that they are beholden to them. You can do this with a lot of animals. There are rumors that these men have supernatural powers, and some even believe they're part hyena. From a very young age, they give their children concoctions to drink and put them in close quarters with the snakes, baboons, and hyenas. This is done to familiarize them with the animals and lose all fear for them. They move from city to city with hyenas, poisonous snakes, and baboons to perform their street circus. During these events,
I want to adopt these practices.
This is where it gets crazy. During these events, the men stick their heads into the mouths of hyenas and even ride them like horses. First of all, these are spotted hyenas, and these are what are considered bone-crushing hyenas. Like, they can crack your bones without breaking your skin.
You know what this reminds me of?
Alligator wranglers.
No, in Lord of the Rings, the orc riders ride on wargs, which are kind of like
hyenas.
Hyenas mixed with wolves, mixed with like bears, I guess. Interesting.
Which is just pretty much a hyena.
Yeah.
You just described hyenas.
They inch their faces dangerously close to the fangs of snakes and sometimes stick the snakes' heads into their mouths. I've seen a lot of Indian people do that with cobras.
The fuck? Why?
Who knows? The baboons are dressed in clothes in order to perform backflips. So this is...
You just glaze over that.
I know. Tony, what?
The baboons do backflips in clothes. So one of the things that this doesn't touch on is in Nigeria, the hyena men are kind of contracted or paid to sleep with the daughters of the village people after they've had their first menstruation.
I saw that and I was like, what?
That
I was gonna avoid it, but that's fine.
Yeah, that's the thing that I saw. I was like, holy shit, you gotta be.
That took me a second then. What?
Yeah, that's so they view them as having these magical powers for having these animals that are not eating them or killing them. So yeah, it's disturbing.
It doesn't really make sense to me, to be honest. At all.
Nope, but it's Bobby's problem now.
Yeah.
What?
Okay. So
wait, hold on. But what do you guys think could be the benefit of having the hyena men sleep with your
there isn't
freshly menstruated daughter?
Well, this gets back into my idea of maybe hyena doesn't mean animal. Maybe it means a ravenous man.
Okay. Is that in the English dictionary or no?
Is what in English dictionary?
No, I mean the word is Greek to begin with.
Right.
Interesting.
One day we'll talk about Bigfoots again.
But it is not this day.
Back when it was safe.
Not today.
Today is not the safe day.
Yeah, Tony, any other fun facts about just hyenas in general? Because you seem to be the zoology guy on the show.
Maybe we'll touch on that later.
Later. All right. I like it.
You want me to go into it now, or do you want to go over your section?
We'll go into it later. It's okay.
We're gonna go into it later because I gotta take this little segue here. We're gonna talk about the Bambara cult. Bub. I know I'm pronouncing it wrong. I think it's just Ambara people. Now, Bree, you did refer to this in our planning notes as a cult. I don't know if that's the most politically correct.
Did I? Whoops.
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
What would you call it? What would be the fair?
Like 5 minutes ago, it would have been fine, but
Listen,
you know what I mean?
I think Christians are a cult, so my bad.
Wow.
Cool.
I'm sorry. I take
you just alienated like 60% of the audience, Bree.
I didn't mean that. I should have expanded on what I meant.
I don't care because you're going to go to hell. You'll get your comeuppance. I'm going to pray really hard for you.
Exactly.
Okay. The Ambara cult of Mali. Okay, so these people, I don't want to say cult. It's a religious faction of people. Yeah. It's a religious tradition of Mali, Africa. Now, this originated from I'm going to keep saying it wrong. Bamana. I'm going to just say Bamana, and we're going to hope that that's right. Feel free to drink. Take your. The Bamana originated as a royal section of the Mandinka people. And these were actually the founders of the Mali Empire in the 13th century. And I'm trying to explain this with enough confidence as if I am some sort of authority on African history and folklore. So just roll with me.
Today you are.
Like actually,
Bamara. Today we're account for about 1.5 million people. And they've kind of assimilated all throughout the region and into different cultures and whatnot. They are an agricultural people, but their agriculture, as often your trade or your dependence on the earth, can be intertwined with your religion. So in this case, their high god is conceived of as a grain from which 3 other divine persons and finally the whole creation is born.
Ooh.
So any questions on that? Because I definitely have the answers.
I'll get some of the questions later. It's okay.
Okay, ask them later. Save questions to the end, please.
Yeah. In the chat, if you have any questions for the end, leave them in the chat.
Now, you might be asking yourself, why are you even talking about this right now? Well, the reason being is because the religion itself has some traditions, metaphysical, cosmological traditions that are associated with animalistic cults vis-a-vis eventually, we'll get to it later, the hyena. So in order, we got to do a quick crash course on the Bamana religion. Okay, there's different levels to it. There's different initiatory societies, if you will. So there's the Nadomo, and this is basically when you're taught about the origins and destiny of humanity. And then after that, you seem to elevate to the Como, which is to reveal mysteries of knowledge. And when I was looking this up, I was like, well, that's very vague, perhaps because it is quite literally a mystery as to what those mysteries could be. And after that, you have the Nama. This is more about becoming the union of the spirit and the body, good and evil, all the dualities of the world and whatnots. Then we have the Kono, which deals with the problems of those dualities, and then kind of, I guess, examines it through the lens of that union of body and consciousness. Guys, you got to just bear with me through this because it's all very important to the hyena episode of Bobby's Cryptid Corner.
I believe it. I'm holding on. I think it's cool to know the background. Okay.
And then lastly, we have not lastly, before we get to what we really want to get into, which is hyenas, werehyenas, there's the Taiwara Society, which is more about learning agriculture, working the field. Again, their trade and their source of resource, their practices, their agricultural practices are very intertwined with their spirituality. So lastly, we have the KARI, which I believe I did see a few references online referring it to as the KARI cult, right? One of which was Bree's notes.
What?
It's extremely okay. So
are they a good cult?
I mean, how good can all cults are good?
Yeah. Sure, they are.
This is more about learning about the spiritualization and divination of man. So basically, the long and short of it is how to become immortal, and not in the sense of like salvation in like a Christian sense, but it's more about like I'm trying to think of the words to put this, because they're into reincarnation, right? And it's about the ability to return to Earth and be reborn within your little faction's lineage. So I guess the way I'm gathering this is like eternal life and salvation comes from being thrown back into the world each time. I don't know. Okay, I'm trying it. So, and there's all kinds of initiation rituals and whatnots for this. That's just kind of the Reader's Digest version of what I want to get to here. They challenge immoral authority and hypocritical morality through sexually explicit gestures and buffoonery. This is all through rituals. By employing masks that represent the hyena, the lion, the monkey, the antelope, the horse.
Horse,
but
or
now,
horse?
Well, you know,
horse.
tomato in this case, right?
Oh, okay.
And I think what I'm gathering from this, to go back to what KARI was saying earlier about, like, you know, a very animalistic, horny man. Is that what we're talking about? Like like a real stallion,
like
of a guy.
The hyena being a descriptor, not
stallion of a man.
And don't quote me on this, but I think the idea here is if we can kind of mock the transformation via these masks and these performance rituals, it's to kind of express the animalistic nature of human beings as a, hey, if we do not ascend beyond our animalistic instincts, we're no better than them. That's what I kind of gathered from it. So it's about like staying.
That's such a good way to put it.
Like self-control. I mean, it's more or less very similar to like a Christian thing too. It's like, okay, right. Yes, we are animals, but we're also like ascended from beyond animals to, we have a responsibility not to give in to those instincts constantly in forms of debauchery or degeneracy, things like that. I think that's what it's getting at. Again, I don't know. But what happens is that they deliberately dress up like hyenas, imitate the animals, and the members of the cult are often feared by others because of this.
Because they dress up like it, that they're like, stay away.
Yeah, so it's like kind of a different venue for a cautionary tale, I think, in a different intent for that matter. But yeah, it's about so going, not to use a Western Hollywood cliche, but slasher movies are often about, hey, teenagers, on some level at least, it's about teenagers being murdered for having premarital sex, right?
Right.
Is that what it is?
I mean, that's kind of the subtext of a lot of those movies.
Yeah.
So I think this is kind of similar in the sense of like, hey, like we're going to scare the, participants of this, or the audience members of this ritual into stray them away from kind of uncouth behavior, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but that was back in the 80s and early 90s when America had values.
When we had values.
Listen, America was never great, so you could never make it great again. Anyways,
I'm not trying to.
Continue, Bobby.
Well, I mean, that's pretty much it on how the hyena intertwines with all this. A lot of nowadays, a lot of these regions actually just Islam is the dominant religion, but it is said that a lot of these guys will practice these pre-Islamic traditions. Similar, like Mesoamerica, they're all Catholic, but a lot of them still kind of acknowledge Quetzalcoatl and stuff like that. So.
Oh yeah.
I still don't understand why they would fear the people that dress up as this cult, because isn't it kind of like playing an homage to the danger of the hyena? So why do you think the other people would be like, oh, they're so scary? Do you think they think that they are the Werehyena?
Does someone else want to take this?
I do. So I actually spent a good 20 minutes trying to look up how often hyenas attack humans.
How often do they attack humans?
Are
we going to get to that later?
Extremely rare. Although hyenas readily feed upon human corpses, already dead people, they are generally very wary of humans and less dangerous than the big cats. So lions, leopards, whatever, right? Whose territory overlaps with theirs. Nonetheless, both the spotted hyena and smaller striped hyena are powerful predators quite capable of killing an adult human. But who do they kill? Women, children, and infirm men, which I just see as cucks. Is that just translated into cucks? Infirm?
Infirm
weak
men?
Weak cucks.
Could this be the ravenous man beating the other men to the women?
Perhaps.
I don't know. Female hyenas have dicks. So
what? How come you haven't talked about this yet?
Because you guys won't let me get to it.
Why are we even?
We'll get to it.
We're getting to it.
I don't believe.
I want to hear about the dicks.
Right.
We're here for that and that only, right?
Just the dicks. Just lady dicks. They're hyena. It's a real thing. Why is everybody not saying anything? It's real. This is national...
too much hate crime in one video.
Shit.
Crime.
Dad's here. Oh, did you say my
just in time for the hate crimes?
That's fucked up.
Okay, so can I talk about hyenas?
I need to respond to this question. What is the stuffed animal behind me? It's a dinosaur.
Oh, it's a dinosaur.
So me and my daughter have the same one. So we can be like, hey, we have the same thing. And now everybody's like, what? KARI has a daughter? What? I'm moving on now.
Yeah, can we talk about chick dicks? Real stuff. Okay, so hyenas are weird, right? So they're not feline and they're not canids, which is really weird because they've been around for 20 to 22 million years, and they actually existed in the North American continent, the European continent, and the Asian continent. They've been all over the place. But for some reason, there's only 4 species of hyenas left. And there's 2 subspecies. There's bone crushers and non-bone crushers. There's a really weird one. It's called like an ard. Not an aardvark. It's like a ard hyena. It's
Emil's an aardvark, and he's proud.
So you got the spotted hyena, the striped hyena, aardwolf. There it is.
Oof.
So they fit this weird niche between like cats and dogs, but they're not really either because they don't have retractable claws, but they hunt like dogs, but they have similarities to cats, but they don't kill like cats do. They're super weird. And I think this is one of the things where when we talk about the Werehyena and the mythology behind it, where if you live in an area where you have lions,
Tigers
jaguars,
and bears. Oh my.
no,
Tigers?
there's no bears in Africa. But if you have lions and leopards and cheetahs and jackals and stuff like that, like what all the predators are, and then you have this predator that shows up that is not like anything else, right? It doesn't act the way the other predators do, but it has features that some of the other predators do, and you kill 1 or 2 of them and you're like, what is this? So it kind of takes a supernatural kind of place. It's a weird animal. There's literally 4 species of this animal.
So it's almost like the animal itself is almost has some like shapeshifter qualities to it, because it could be interpreted from a distance or from obscured vision or something, like, because it's so weird and seems to be kind of a combination of all these different animals. You could probably derive a shapeshifting part of just the hyena in general.
Right. And it fits a niche. And I think one of the things is, if you look at it, Africa lacks a certain species that all of the other continents have. That is bears.
What?
Bears.
Oh, shit.
Hyenas fill that role.
They killed them all, right? Something happened. I remember reading about that.
I don't think there's bears in Africa.
They killed all
There's
the bears.
no bears in Africa.
Right.
It is the only continent without bears.
I'm
Sounds
shocked.
like a Ween song.
And these animals, it's, they're ugly, they're nasty, they smell, they're gross, and all the other things that we associate with predators and stuff. But when I was researching this, and of course I had to research the animal first, I just found it extremely fascinating on how these animals develop. They're not quite cats. They're not quite dogs. They're not bears. They don't hibernate. They are filling the role of bears in an area where you cannot hibernate for 4 months out of the year because you'll be eaten. You can't. I mean, they're afraid of people. They really don't go near people. I spent 20 minutes looking up.
20 whole minutes?
20 whole minutes trying to find a...
That's a long time, Tony. Did you have to, rest afterwards?
I did.
It takes me 20 minutes to pour a cup of coffee, so who cares?
What?
I have a question.
What's your question?
I'm a slow person. Are there Are there any hyenas in the States? Because I don't think we have any hyenas.
There used to be.
Yeah.
There used to be. So there was actually a hyena that lived. So they actually went across the entire globe. They got pushed out by wolves and Siberian tigers.
And then
You're
the
telling me they
Nation
used
attacked.
to be here, but there was a bigger animal, a larger predator that pushed them off?
Yes.
Yeah, Christopher Columbus and his posse killed all the
Christopher Columbus and
hyenas.
his AR-15s fucking shot up all the woolly mammoths.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's exactly my thing is like, if you look at the history of all the different animals that were here in the States, I don't understand why the hyena would not be one of them.
So it was, and that's really fucking interesting. Like, if you look at it, how did these animals go all the way out and just revert back to just Africa? There's 4 different ones. There's the striped hyena, the spotted hyena, the furry cunt, and the gray cunt. And
Cunt? What?
He's just trying to get our attention.
Yeah, there's an aardwolf. It's a weird name. But like, only everybody knows the spotted hyena. It's the one that laughs. Ha 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 ha. Everybody's seen the Lion King, right?
Hakuna Matata.
Yeah, but I think
lives in
we're
you.
missing something here, and I think this animal might be
Aliens.
maybe it didn't work out as
Just
good
not
as it
that
should
into you.
have.
It needs to lift harder, man. That's what it's got to do.
I kind of feel bad for it. They didn't work out very well.
Well, they're in Africa thriving. I mean, there's this entire lore around them.
I mean, do they have good gym access in Ethiopia?
I don't know. I don't know if they have a gym membership.
What?
Maybe they ate gym. Maybe that's what it was. Shit.
Okay, but that's
We'll talk about
So-
Bigfoot one day again.
Yeah, we'll get there.
One
We'll get
day.
there.
Well, then we'll do that
So-
later.
have we fully touched on all the hyena weirdness or what?
I think there was a couple more slides to look at.
No, not yet.
Oh, Then-
No.
yeah,
Later.
I guess.
Okay. Hold on.
We're
I have
very
no idea
quick
what the
on
itinerary
production.
was. I've just hit.
There's
So
You're
not.
just here.
Yeah.
You're
there's
just not Jamie.
I'm just not Jamie.
You're just so I was trying to lead the question of like why hyena? What could be a coincidence with hyena and possibly it being this horrible thing? Obviously, we know when it comes to anti-Semitism and all of that, it is always because it's an outsider. We touched on this earlier. When something is outside of your community, especially back in the day, they associated that with something negative, right? They didn't necessarily just like welcome them with opening arms. I mean, like, hey, that's fine. We're all just gonna coexist. That coexist sticker on the back of the bumper and you see in now cars didn't exist back then, so people didn't really understand the idea.
I think people were
of
more or
that.
less just trying to fucking survive at that point.
Could it? I've noticed this recurring thing where every time we look into a different subject, it's the particular culture that makes the mythological cryptid idea. It's always the worst animal that exists in their localized area.
Yeah.
So, like for
Or
Ethiopia, it would be the hyena because there's loads of hyenas.
When you say worse, you mean like aggressive and scary?
Yeah, like the scariest possible, like
Sure.
incarnation of a monster or a dangerous animal.
Yeah, I mean, you're not gonna attribute, cautionary tales to like a cute bunny rabbit or something like
Right.
that, unless you're Monty Python, of course.
Right.
But
The
Holy
other side
hand
to that,
grenade.
mhm.
the other side
Yeah,
to that,
that's
though,
it.
that Bree was talking about with the anti-Semitism, that does seem to go hand in hand with a lot of these stories, which is it's kind of the threat of the outsider, the other, and the
But-
culture's fears are then projected onto another group. in
But
the
the
form
other
of
can also
this
just
like
be
mythological idea.
I think the other, as you put it, doesn't necessarily have to be like another clan of human beings.
Right. It could just be
it could just be
grasping
anything
with like
that's
the other,
perceived
like
as
the concept
dangerous.
of other entities, other spirits, whatever. Like the concept of there being the other, and then they quite often will project their own fears at it, whilst also roping like race and class and stuff into it too.
Mm-hmm.
Right,
Big
and
time.
you know that's a thing where when I started looking up the hyena, I was like, this animal doesn't fit anywhere. So looking at like the mythology behind the Werehyena, that doesn't fit with like anything. Like it's the stranger, the blacksmith, the whatever, right? This is an animal that does not fit genetically with anything around it,
Drink.
but it's
I don't
still
got anything to
there.
drink.
Somebody does, but it's still
Genetically.
there, doing what it's doing, filling a role that nobody knows, right?
What its purpose
filling.
is.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing?
There.
What are you doing here?
In lieu of drinking, I'm just going to ponder my orb.
Oh, yes.
That's like hornets and wasps. I'm like, what is your purpose? So yes.
I have pondered.
I kind of feel bad for hyenas after looking them up and looking up their genealogy.
I do too, but it just makes sense though. I mean, okay, so we know that they've always been portrayed as being scavengers. And then like really ravishing like dead rotting flesh. And being quite brutal. I think when we think of a hyena, we always think of them as like running around and they're just like tearing flesh apart. Like,
when I think of hyenas, I just think of the hyenas from Lion King.
Right,
the dicks. Scar around. Yeah,
yeah.
That's been true in my head since I was a kid. Like that's what hyenas are. Thanks, Disney.
Yeah. Now, could it be? So, anyways, so I think when I think of a hyena, it's like obviously if they're all these things, if they're very dangerous, they're violent, they're ravishing on this rotting flesh. Of course, that would be a caution to tell folks in the village. And then could it also be that maybe they're like their laughs, their cries is like this yipping, like, and sometimes it sounds like laughing, like people laughing.
Right, because laughing hyena.
Right.
And could that be also mistaken, possibly, like maybe this is where the root comes from, is that they hear that and then they mistake that for a person. And then it ends up being a hyena. So then they're like, the Werehyena is calling us out here, calling our names, but that's not really what's happening. It's just that their cries, their laughs sound like ours. But
well,
then they
I would
put
like
that
to
connection
think
together.
I would like to think that people who are from that area, whose ancestors are from that area and hunted that area, would be able to tell them, no, that's this animal. This is this animal. We don't go towards that sound. Like, because if you live in a society where you hunt, you know your ancestors, your father, your grandfather is going to tell you what you can and cannot hunt, what noises are and are not good noises, what you should and should not go towards. And I think that's something that we take for granted now because we don't live that life.
Because we know the dangers. Why do we need?
Well, because we're domesticated.
We don't have to consider the dangers.
Right. Yes. So we don't have to consider it, right? So
it's too easy to get food.
Yeah. So
McDonald's
I don't have to
DoorDash that
teach.
shit.
I don't have to teach if I ever have a kid. I don't have to teach my kid the yip 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 are coyotes, right?
There could be
Because
Wendigos.
they know that we have beef. And
Could be Jeff from Strange Recon.
it could be.
That could be Jefferson.
Scared of Jeff.
So I don't
No
know.
one's scared of
I
Jeff.
was just trying to throw out all the things with hyenas. Obviously, it's weird, but I could kind of see where they would pull all of these different attributes of a werehyena from. You know,
Mm-hmm. It's very.
it's interesting to me because I don't like to think of Africa as like so far out there in relation to my life. You know what I mean? Like, I don't like to think of them as like so vastly different, even though I know that they are. But for, 2023 to still be sort of doing these exorcisms on people that could be werehyena is kind of wild to me. Very wild.
So how do we all feel? How do we go to our
Factor
I'm a
Can you
little-
be a little bit more
sci-fi.
specific?
Yeah.
How do I feel about what?
the
Didn't we have more slides?
Life.
We'll get to it. We're getting to it.
we're getting to it.
Okay.
So Kari, how do you
That's
feel
me.
about this specific cryptid?
I think it's kind of a cultural signifier. Kind of what I was getting at earlier about like tribal archetypes, and it's these like people have like spirit animals, and so that concept of like becoming the animal in terms of a ritualistic thing that the tribe does, or a role
Right.
that needs to be filled in terms of the ceremony. I think it's more probably akin to that, especially when you add in the anti-Semitism stuff. Like, it definitely feels like a projection of something. So I'm gonna go sci-fi simply because I don't think it's a real thing. I think it's a ceremonial role, or it's a descriptor of a really horny guy.
Why not both?
He ate people.
Bree,
He really wanted to
sorry, Bree.
I'm going to give this like a 2.5. Basically sci-fi, leaning towards middle bitch, only because I know some weird shit can happen out there in the valley. You know, you just don't fucking know. So I'm just leave it at that.
Oh my god.
Bobby.
Well, I got to say, I'm going to go pretty much what Kari said there. I'm going to go sci-fi. However, like you gotta like consider, this is technically a cryptid, I guess, but we don't have really any evidence of it beyond just this kind of spiritual archetype, right? Like, and that, granted, context has to do with that, but I didn't really come across any like sightings of the were.
Exactly.
I couldn't find anything either.
There's no Patterson Gimlin film of a werehyena. But again, these are places that are not as technologically developed, so who knows if that's out there or not. But I think Kari's dead on. It's a combination of, cautionary tales regarding outsiders mixed with like some sort of spiritual interpretation archetype. It's not a flesh and blood real thing to be worried about. That's all.
That's a crazy thing
story.
though, if you think about it, because like this is a standing historical thing for all these people, and they're still carrying on to this day, and it's so wild that we're like, anyway, continue.
Right. You got to remember too, like
Tony.
people like this emphasis on like the physical material world, like I guess pre-Western Enlightenment kind of stuff. Like people like the spirit world was just as real, right?
Yeah.
To a lot of these cultures. So it's like, it's not like they're necessarily saying that it's a physical manifestation in the material world, but nonetheless, their spirituality or their religion in that culture is, in a lot of cultures that are still spiritual, like still acknowledge it as a real thing, regardless of whether or not it's something you see out in the bush or whatever.
Right on.
All right.
Word.
What about you, Tyler?
I think this is a case of a really weird animal.
You think it's real?
The animal, yes.
Hyenas
are real.
Hyenas. We should start a conspiracy theory online that
hyenas
are not real.
So I don't.
Have you seen one?
A hyena? Yes, I've seen.
So someone told you it's real.
No, we saw it.
I don't think hyenas are real. I think I have seen them at the zoo.
Where the fuck we go? You've been to a zoo, yes. So hyenas fit a really weird niche, and they fit them where they fit them. And I could honestly go into 2 hours about why there aren't bears in Africa and a lot of other stuff, but
next time,
really researching the animal and looking into it and looking into the lore, I can see why they would have a mythology based around it, because it's such a weird animal.
Tony, I think you should do a spin-off podcast strictly about African bears.
There aren't any.
Tony, let's do an episode tomorrow about it.
Whatever.
Bears.
We'll get to it.
So we can do Australian bears.
We can
talk about why drop bears aren't real bears. But I'm going to go sci-fi on this. I don't think
they're part of the raccoon family, right?
They are, yes.
What the fuck?
Fuck yeah.
Fuck yeah.
So I don't think there's actually werehyenas. I just think the animal itself is so fascinating and it fits so many different niches that, you know what? It just created a mythology on itself. And
Tony, were you this into hyenas prior to this episode of BCC?
Absolutely.
Is this like a new love you have?
No, he spent 20 minutes. He got like a
I spent more than that. Shut up, fucker.
But Tony fucking loves hyenas now. Have you guys noticed that? He's really into them.
It happened.
No, actually started.
He wants to embody the hyena.
I'm the new werehyena.
Tony is.
It's really just a hairy man that likes to fucking party.
Yeah, I'm into that.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Oh my god, I forgot a slide. Hold on, I did forget a slide. Let me see what the last one is really quick. Oh.
I know what it is. What happened to my
Never mind. There was no slide.
No, there's a thing for that. Hold on, there's a thing for that.
There we go.
There
yes, this is my movie recommendation for this episode.
Wait, before you do anything.
All right. I'll shut the fuck up.
Now you can talk.
I'm gonna wait till the whole class is quiet.
We're so much more professional than Congress. Go ahead.
I don't know of any movies about hyenas, okay? But I do know of one particular movie about scary animals in Africa. And that movie is 1996's The Ghosts in the Darkness, starring Michael Douglas and Val Kilmer. It's what I would refer to as a gem. It's way better than it looks to be. Like, you look at it, you're kind of like, this looks like something I'd watch with my grandma. And it's okay. And, you found it in the VHS bin at Walgreens for like $4.99 or whatever.
$3 for $5 bin.
It's a very 90s gem of a film about a railroad construction. I think it's based on a true story. Railroad construction.
It is based on a true story.
And there is this mythological giant. Oh, is it mythological? That's really the question. Is it fact or sci-fi? In this case, it is fact, of a enormous man-eating lion in which Michael Douglas and Val Kilmer must hunt down to finish their railroad.
That's awesome.
Hashtag Breeze triggered by the colonialism.
So,
not yet. I haven't watched it.
Sorry.
Spoiler alert.
Hashtag Breeze. That's a great hashtag.
Spoiler, that movie is based off of a 100% true story, and there's 2 lions, and their carcasses are currently stuffed at the Chicago Museum of Natural History.
Now, I saw this movie in 1996, and I don't think I've seen it since, but I remember it being awesome.
Yep. So there it is right there. The arrow said they can be found at the Natural History Museum in Chicago. Like I just said.
So I went there. Awesome. Cool.
I'm glad, Tony, you're here. And I'm glad the
Anybody reading anything interesting?
No, I don't know how to read.
Yes.
No, we know that. I wasn't asking.
The Bible.
Oh, okay. You don't read that.
I'm reading an essay on the principles of population by Thomas Malthus. So, that'll be a fun episode.
What's that about? Interesting.
It's about Malthusianism.
Oh, hey, good shit. Did anybody else see that Japan currently just had 800,000 births? For the first time, and they're at a net negative. And
their population is going to collapse if it continues that way.
Yes,
that's crazy.
In what was it? 16 years? 40 years?
Okay, 20, but 40? Listen, this is what I told Kari. Who cares how many births are in a whole country? The earth itself is not of lack of human bodies.
Oh, yes, it is.
But the infrastructure of the country.
No, it's fucking not.
The country collapses. Okay,
listen,
I love people and I don't want
outro. Somebody hit the outro. I'll do it.
What? I was going to show a book and everything, guys.
Oh my God, hold on.
Totally